Welcome back, car enthusiasts. Today, we're diving into the origins of automotive legends. Ever wondered what the first cars were for some of the biggest names in the car world? From racing icons to automotive innovators, we've got the scoop on the humble beginnings that kickstarted their incredible journeys. Buckle up and join us as we explore the first rides of famous car people. Hey everyone, and in today's video, we'll uncover the stories behind the very first cars owned by some of the most influential figures in the automotive industry. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss out on our latest retro car content. Let's get started. 1. Elon Musk, BMW 320i E21. Tech entrepreneur and Tesla chief Musk's first car, a 1978 BMW 320i, was bought in 1994 when he was 23 years old. He said in a Forbes interview that he fixed the car up himself and owned it for 2 years before upgrading to a Jaguar E-Type. Number 2. Lewis Hamilton, Mini Cooper. His current garage apparently boasts a McLaren P1, a LaFerrari and a LaFerrari Aperta, and a Mercedes 300 SL. But rewind to 2002 and Lewis Hamilton's wheels were a lot more down to earth. When the current Formula One champion passed his driving test back in 2002, he bought himself a used Mini Cooper. Number 3. Jeremy Clarkson, MK Sue, Ford Cortina 1600E. Clarkson's fondness for the Ford Cortina stems from the time he saw one parked outside his school gates, his dad at the wheel. Clarkson recalls his pride that his dad had bought the E model, a slightly posher and more powerful version than standard. He followed in his father's motoring footsteps, and the moment he passed his test in 1977, he bought a 1969 MK11 Cortina. A 1600E, of course. He added extra front spotlights, fur-lined doors, and race seats. I went to town on it. Number 4. Jay Leno, Ford pickup. Leno made his famed fortune on The Tonight Show and a stand-up comedy act, but he's probably more famous now for his deep love of cars. Leno is the host of Jay Leno's Garage and owns more than 150 cars and a similar number of motorbikes. It all started, though, with a $350 1934 Ford pickup he bought when he was 14 and spent the next 2 years fixing up. Number 5. Bob Lutz, 1948 Beetle. Bob Lutz is one of the automotive industry's leading executives and somewhat uniquely has had senior roles at BMW, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Cars were an early passion, and he got his first in 1953. 5-year-old Volkswagen Beetle taught him the art of correcting sudden oversteer on wet roads. 6. Andy Green, Ford Escort Mk1. He might be the current land speed record holder, but Royal Air Force officer Andy Green had a more ordinary start to his motoring life behind the wheel of a Mk1 Ford Escort, a car that would struggle to reach even a tenth of the speed of Green's 760 miles per hour 1997 record-breaking drive in Thrust SSC. He hopes to break the record again with the new Bloodhound LSR project. 7. Jenson Button, Mk3 Vauxhall Cavalier. Former Formula One world champion Button owns a Ferrari F40, a McLaren P1, and a Ferrari F355 that he's had since he was a teenager, but he still has fond memories of his first car. It was a 1990 Vauxhall Cavalier 8-volt he bought for £2,000 and upgraded with sportier suspension, bigger wheels, and a punchier sound system. Number 8. Ralph Lauren, Morgan 4 Force. He's as famous for his car collection as he is his fashion. It's a collection that's estimated to be worth as much as 240 pounds. 2 McLaren F1s, Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic Coupe, and a Ferrari 250 GTO. But it all started with Lauren's first car, a 1961 Morgan 4.4. 9. James May, Mk1 Vauxhall Cavalier. Grand Tour presenter James May's first car was a Mk1 Vauxhall Cavalier from 1978, a base-spec L model. In a Top Gear magazine column, he once complained it was a car so bad had a piece of beige plastic instead of a clock, a radio that didn't work, and windscreen wipers that wouldn't work in the rain. 10. Jerry Seinfeld, Volkswagen Beetle. Jerry Seinfeld is the American talk show host and current face of Netflix series Celebrities in Cars Getting Coffee. He's also a serious Porsche aficionado. He's rumored to have 43 Porsches in his collection, and in 2016 sold part of his collection for 18 million pounds at auction. His first car wasn't a Porsche, but the next best thing? 77 Volkswagen Beetle. 11. Steve McQueen, Porsche Speedster. McQueen once said, "I'm not sure whether I'm an actor who races or a racer who acts." When he wasn't filming, he could usually be found at a track racing cars or motorbikes. He even won his class at the 1970 12 Hours of Sebring and finished third when he had a go at British touring race cars at Brands Hatch in 1961. He owned many of the cars from his films, including the Porsche 917 from Le Mans, 1971, though he missed out on the Mustang from Bullitt. The first car he bought new, and the first car he raced competitively, was his 1958 Porsche Speedster. McQueen died in 1980. His Porsche is now owned by his son Chad, the only car of his collection remaining in the family. 12. Eric Bana, 74 Ford XB Falcon. Australian actor Bana has owned his first car for 35 years. It's a 1974 Ford XB Falcon that he bought when he was 15 years old for about £600. In 2009, he made a documentary about it called Love the Beast, celebrating the passion people have for cars. He also races competitively. 13. Paul Newman Ford Model A. A legend on screen and a serious racing driver off it, Paul Newman adored cars and driving. It was the film Winning that he starred in 1969 that got him seriously hooked on motorsport. He raced at Le Mans and competed in American Racing Series, forming his own IndyCar team in later years. His first car was a 1929 Ford Model A. Newman died in 2008. 14. J.K. BMW 1602. J.K., frontman of the band Jamiroquai, is a serial car collector and owns, among other models, a Lamborghini Miura and a Ferrari Vignale 3/3 GT. His first car was a BMW 1602, precursor to the 3 Series, which he bought when he passed his test at the age of 21. He bought a classic as it would be cheaper to insure and bought the car back recently to restore it. Number 15. Adam Corolla, Mazda B-Series pickup. Corolla is a U.S. comedian who appeared in a pilot episode of Top Gear USA. He later went on to form his own motoring show, The Car Show, as well as directing Winning, The Racing Life of Paul Newman. He's a collector of ex-Paul Newman cars and owns a collection of historic racing cars. His first car was a 1978 Mazda B-Series pickup. 16. David Beckham, Ford Escort Mk2. Former football ace Beckham has been a lifelong car fan and has owned a series of impressive cars over the years, including a Chevrolet Camaro SS and a Jaguar F-Type Project 7. His first car was more down-to-earth, a Ford Escort Mk2 he bought off Manchester United teammate Ryan Giggs. 17. Rowan Atkinson, Morris Minor pickup. British comedian Rowan Atkinson is perhaps most well known for his title roles as Mr. Bean and Blackadder, but he's also a self-confessed car lover and competes in historic racing series. He has owned a McLaren F1, Bentley Birkin Mulsanne, a Mercedes-Benz 500e, and a Honda NSX. He has a penchant for British cars, starting out with a Morris Minor pickup that his mother gave him when he was 12. He spent his teens repairing. 18. Vin Diesel, 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Diesel is most famous for his role in the Fast and the Furious movie franchise, which has allowed him to indulge his passion for American muscle cars. He has owned a Dodge Charger, Plymouth Roadrunner, Pontiac Bonneville, and a Plymouth Barracuda. Starting the love affair was perhaps his first car, a 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that he bought at auction and promptly broke down. 19. Sir Sterling Moss, Austin 7. Moss has been described as the greatest driver to never win a Formula One World Championship and has competed in all levels of motorsport, winning nearly half of all the races he entered. His first car was an Austin 7 that his father bought him at the age of 9, which he would drive around the fields at his home. Moss died in April 2020, aged 90. 20. Duke of Richmond, Morgan three-wheeler. Lifelong car nut Charles Gordon Lennox, now known as the Duke of Richmond, is the brains behind the Goodwood Festival of Speed and the Goodwood Revival, annual motoring festivals that he usually hosts in the grounds of his ancestral estate in West Sussex. His daily drive these days is a Rolls-Royce Ghost. Well, they are made on his doorstep after all. But back in the day, a 16-year-old Gordon Lennox drove a Morgan three-wheeler on a motorbike license. 21. David Coulthard, Renault 5. Formula One presenter and former racer Coulthard has a F1-derived 1000 BF Mercedes-AMG 1 on order and has a Mercedes SLS-AMG and a 1971 Mercedes 280 SL. His first car was a Renault 5 when he passed his driving test at 17, but by then he was already an established racing driver. 22. Chris Harris, Mini. Harris is currently a presenter of Top Gear and formerly road test editor of Autocar, and he has driven and owned some of the world's finest cars, but his first car was an original Mini that he bought in 1991 before he passed his driving test. He kitted it out with bucket seats and a sports exhaust. 23. Bernie Ecclestone, Morgan three-wheeler. The British businessman built up a considerable fortune owning the rights to Formula One until he was ousted in 2017. He has amassed a collection of race-winning Formula One cars, but claims to have little interest in road cars. His first car was a Morgan three-wheeler, a car he claims is one of few he remembers. 24. Carroll Shelby, 1934 Dodge. The godfather of car tuning, Shelby gave the world the AC Cobra and fast versions of the Ford Mustang. Outside of building cars, he dabbled in a bit of racing, competing in 8 Formula One races in the 1950s, and trained with Chuck Yeager in the U.S. Army Air Force during World War II. His first car was a hand-me-down from his father, a 1934 Dodge, though we don't know which exact model. Shelby died in 2012. 25. Tanner Foust, Honda Civic Wagon. Foust is a rallycross champ, drifter, and Hollywood stunt driver, doing the driving scenes in the Fast and Furious films, as well as the Dukes of Hazzard and the Bourne Legacy. He's also a former host of Top Gear USA. His current drives are a Porsche 912 he got from his dad and a 911 GT3. He started out on the road in a 1983 Honda Civic Wagon, which he rolled 7 times in a crash when he was 18. 26. Jackie Stewart, Austin A30. Before he'd even thought about being a race car driver, Stewart was working hard in his dad's garage and had saved enough that by the age of 17, he could afford a brand new Austin A30. As we know, he later went on to forge a very successful Formula One career with 3 world champions in the bag. 27. Mary Barra, Chevrolet Chevette. Mary Barra is the boss of General Motors and the first female CEO of a major global car company. She's also a petrolhead and fell in love with her cousin's Chevrolet Camaro when she was 10 years old. When she was old enough to drive, she wanted to cure her muscle car itch by almost buying a Pontiac Firebird, but, bound for college, decided to buy a cheaper Chevrolet Chevette instead. She kept the Chevette for a few years before upgrading to a Pontiac Fiero. All prescient decisions given where she ended up. 28. Mario Andretti, Chevrolet Bel Air. Andretti is one of the most celebrated racing drivers of all time, and only the second driver to ever have won races in Formula One, IndyCar, World Sports Car Championship, and NASCAR. He voiced a cameo in Cars, and currently drives a Lamborghini Aventador and a Chevrolet Corvette Z06. His first car was a 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, red with a white hardtop, that he and his brother inherited from their father. 29. Kazuhiro Yamauchi, Toyota Corolla. Yamauchi is the CEO of Polyphony, creator of the Sony PlayStation racing game series Gran Turismo. As well as sim racing, he enjoys competing in real life too and has successfully competed in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in a Nissan GTR. His first car was a 1982 Toyota Corolla, a car that he says taught him the basics of fast road driving. 30. Nico Rosberg, Audi RS6. 2016 Formula One world champion Rosberg is the son of Keke Rosberg, the 1982 champion. Rosberg Jr. has since retired from motorsport, spending his time in Monaco with his young family and a glorious collection of cars to keep him company. German-born Rosberg's stable is predominantly Mercedes, with an SLS AMG, 1970 280 SL, G63 AMG, and a GLE. But he first started out with an Audi RS6, handed down from his father when he passed his test. Hakan Samuelson, VW Beetle. Samuelson is the CEO of Volvo Cars and has overseen its recent transformation into a premium car maker with models like the new XC90, V90, and XC40. His first car was a 1958 Volkswagen Beetle, which didn't have a working heater, something not so appealing during a Swedish winter. 32. Gordon Murray, Hillman Minx. South African-born Gordon Murray needs little introduction to car fans. He designed the legendary McLaren F1 and Brabham and McLaren Formula One cars in the 1970s and 80s. He's now planning to release his own supercar in 2022. Called the T50, it's a lightweight V12 supercar, which there will only be 100. For his first car, he really wanted an Austin Healey, but settled for a much cheaper 1964 Hillman Minx instead, in which he promptly crashed 6 weeks later. These days, you're as likely to find him at the wheel of a new Alpine A110. The deft-handling lightweight, which we gather, is now his daily driver. 33. Brian Johnson, Ford popular. The AC/DC frontman is a serious petrolhead. He has owned a 1965 Lola T70 Mark I, a Bentley 412-liter, and a Ferrari 458, which he describes as his favorite modern-day car. He also has a Fiat 500 Abarth that he tows behind his tour bus. He's also fronted his own TV show, Cars That Rock with Brian Johnson. Growing up in Gateshead, his dad bought him his first car, a 1959 Ford Popular. He later described it as horrible. 34. Ayrton Senna, Willie's Jeep. Ayrton Senna was born and grew up in Brazil, and the 3-time Formula One champion started driving at the age of 7 on the family's farm. Though technically not his first car, he learned to drive in his father's Willie's Jeep, even mastering the art of changing gears without using the clutch. 35. Kimi Raikkonen, Lada. No-nonsense Formula One racer Raikkonen owns quite a car collection, including a Rolls-Royce Wraith Black badge and the Ferraris Enzo, F12 and 488 Pista. But the Finn started out on the road in a Lada, describing it as very reliable and perfect. 36. Patrick Dempsey, Porsche 356 Speedster. Actor Dempsey starred in Grey's Anatomy, but he's just as well known for his life on the racetrack, stating he would love to walk away from acting and concentrate on racing full-time. He's raced at Le Mans several times, as well as Daytona and Baja, and runs his own racing team. He's also a die-hard Porsche fan and fulfilled his dream early on with a Porsche 356 Speedster as his first car. 37. Richard Hammond, 76 Toyota Corolla liftback. Ex-Top Gear host and third member of the Grand Tour, Hammond's career started in local radio, but his passion for cars drove him into the automotive world and a spell as a public relations officer for Renault, before earning his big break at the BBC. Over the years, he's owned a Dodge Challenger SRT8, a Morgan Aeromax, as well as a clutch of Porsche models from a classic 911 SC through to a 911 GT3 RS. He cut his teeth on his first car, a 1976 Toyota Corolla liftback. She tarred up, in Top Gear Challenge fashion, with Go Faster stripes from black electrical tape, a rear window with an engraved eagle and a Japanese flag on the roof. 38. Nick Mason, Austin 7. The Pink Floyd drummer has built up a serious garage of cars over the years, counting a McLaren F1 and a Ferrari 250 GTO among his collection. He still races many of his cars and is a regular at the Goodwood Revival event. The first car he bought with his band earnings was a Lotus Elan, but before then, the car-mad rocker's first wheels was an Austin 7, a car that taught him a lot about repairing old cars. 39. Mark Webber, 1969 Toyota Corona. Webber was a successful Australian Formula One driver before leaving to race for Porsche in the World Endurance Championship in a 919 hybrid. He currently owns a collection of Porsche 911s, but he's more likely to be found on the mountain bike trails around his Buckinghamshire village home. His first car, when he lived in Australia, was a 1969 Toyota Corona. Showing how hardy his Toyota was, he has recounted a tale of the time his friends set fire to it but still couldn't destroy it. 40. Thomas Ingenlath, VW Polo Mk1. Ingenlath transformed Volvo's design in recent years and is now the CEO of Volvo offshoot Polestar. Before this, he worked for many years at the Volkswagen Group, running the Skodas Yeti and Roomster. He grew up beside a petrol station in Germany, developing an early interest in cars. His first car was a Mk1 Volkswagen Polo, describing it at the time as a rotten car. 41. Alan Mulally, 1963 Chevrolet. Mulally is widely known as the man who saved Ford Motor Company, serving as its CEO for 8 years until 2014. He's an aeroplane fanatic, having served the majority of his career at Boeing, where he masterminded the 777 project, the largest selling wide-body aircraft ever, with over 2,000 examples produced. His first car was a 1963 Chevrolet, though he hasn't publicly stated which model, and was a Lexus driver until he arrived at Ford. 42. Andy Palmer, VW Polo Mk1. Andy Palmer is the former CEO of Aston Martin, and in an interview with the brand's magazine recalled a story with his first car, an Mk1 Volkswagen Polo he bought off his mother. I was driving in a country lane in thick snow, practicing handbrake turns, when I spun around and into a snowdrift. 43. David Richards, Austin Healey Frog Eye Sprite. Richards has had quite the motoring career. Chairman of Aston Martin, presiding over 2 Formula One teams, masterminding the Subaru WRC team with Colin McRae, and he even won the 1981 World Rally Championship co-driving with Ari Vatanen. His love of cars stems to rallying adventures in his native Wales as a teenager. His first car was a yellow Austin Healey Frog Eye Sprite. Wow, what an incredible journey through the early days of these automotive legends. It's amazing to see how their first cars influenced their paths and passion for cars. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your fellow car enthusiasts. Thanks for watching. For more awesome retro car content, subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos. Follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes looks and updates. Until next time, keep those engines roaring and your passion for cars alive.